Keanu Reeves walked into a luxury car dealership one afternoon in Los Angeles. He wasn't wearing anything special, just old jeans, a faded black t-shirt, and boots that looked like they had been worn for years. His hair was a little messy, and he had no security or assistant with him. No one would guess this man was a Hollywood superstar, worth millions. He looked like any normal person just walking in to look at cars. The dealership was quiet inside, with shiny cars parked under soft lights. Each car looked like it cost more than most people made in a year. Salesmen stood near the glass walls, chatting and checking their watches. They didn't look excited to see Keanu walk in fact, some of them looked a bit annoyed. Like he was wasting their time. Keanu didn't rush. He walked slowly around the cars, stopping at one black sports car with smooth lines and silver rims. He ran his hand gently across the hood. Admiring the design, he looked at the price tag. Quietly, not saying anything, minutes passed, but no one came to help him. He glanced at the front desk, where two young salesmen were talking and glancing his way. One of them laughed and said in a voice just loud enough to hear, "Probably can't even afford the tires." The other chuckled, replying, "Another window shopper." Keanu heard it. He didn't show any anger or hurt. He just smiled faintly and turned to look at another car. To him, this kind of thing wasn't new. He had lived through hard times before, sleeping on friends' couches, riding the subway, and even going hungry some nights during his early acting days. Fame never changed him, and he didn't carry it on his face like a crown, so it didn't surprise him when people treated him like a nobody. But that didn't mean it didn't hurt. These salesmen didn't know who he was, but they judged him anyway, not by his heart, his name, or even his behavior, just by his clothes, just by how quiet and humble he looked. Keanu stayed calm. He walked over to the sales counter and stood quietly, waiting for someone to help. The two salesmen didn't move. They leaned on the counter and kept talking, this time whispering so he couldn't hear. A few customers came in, dressed in expensive suits, and the salesman rushed to greet them. Keanu stepped aside, giving them space, never complaining. He waited patiently, still looking at the car he liked, still hoping someone might take him seriously, but no one did. 10 full minutes passed, and still, not a single greeting, not a "Hello, can I help you?" Keanu wasn't angry. He was used to being ignored when he wasn't on a red carpet or in front of a camera. But something about this moment felt heavier. It wasn't just about him, it was about how people treat others when they think no one's watching. Finally, Keanu gave a little sigh. He walked back to the black car one last time and looked at it with quiet interest. Behind him, the same two salesmen laughed again. This time one of them said, "That car isn't for guys like him." They didn't whisper, they didn't hide it. They were proud of their assumptions, proud of their judgment. And Keanu heard every word. Still, he didn't turn around. He didn't shout, didn't fight back. He just stood there for a moment, his eyes on the car, his thoughts somewhere far deeper. He had learned something today, not about the car, but about people, and soon they would learn something about him too, in that quiet, shiny room full of expensive metal and cheap respect. Something real had just happened. A silent test of kindness, a test the dealership didn't know it was failing. Keanu slowly began walking toward the door. But what happened next would change everything, because someone finally recognized him, and the whole mood of the place shifted like a storm was about to hit. But for now, the quiet man in the plain shirt kept walking, and behind him, the ones who laughed still didn't know who they had just insulted. The young salesman finally decided to approach Keanu Reeves after watching him stand quietly near the cars for several minutes, but the way he came over was not friendly or respectful. Instead, he looked Keanu up and down with a slight sneer on his face, as if already judging him before saying a word. "Are you looking for something more affordable?" the salesman asked. His voice had a tone that made it clear he didn't expect a serious answer. Keanu stayed calm and replied softly, "I'm interested in this model." He pointed to a sleek black sports car with smooth curves and shiny chrome rims. The car was expensive, more than most people could afford without a big loan. The salesman smirked and said, "Sir, these cars are for high-performance drivers and serious buyers only." He leaned in slightly and added, "We don't usually offer test drives to just anyone." Another salesman overheard this and joined in, crossing his arms and saying, "Yeah, we only deal with people who know what they want and can actually buy." Both men looked at Keanu like he was a joke, not worth their time. They didn't know who he was, but they assumed he was just wasting time or trying to play rich. Their words were sharp and cold, but Keanu did not lose his calm. He didn't get angry or shout back. He simply said, "I see," and nodded slowly. Keanu had faced rude people before, but this was different because he was being judged not for what he said or did, but for how he looked, plain, simple, and not wealthy enough in their eyes. It was like invisible walls had been built between him and the salesman. Walls made of assumptions and prejudice. They didn't care about his kindness, his years of hard work, or his humble nature. To them, he was just a man who didn't fit their idea of a customer. While the salesman talked, Keanu stayed quiet. Thinking carefully, he remembered the many times in his life when people judged him too quickly, early in his career, before he became famous. He was often ignored or treated poorly. He had lived through hard times, sleeping on friends' couches and sometimes going hungry, but he never let those moments break his spirit. Instead, he learned patience and kindness, even when others didn't deserve it. The dealership's bright lights and shiny floors couldn't hide the coldness in the air. Other customers came in, dressed in expensive suits and jewelry, and the salesman immediately moved to serve them. Keanu stood aside, watching quietly, feeling like a ghost in a place made for the rich and powerful. He didn't complain or cause a scene. He just waited, hoping someone would treat him with respect, but respect did not come. Minutes passed, and the salesman kept whispering and laughing behind their hands. Keanu could hear snatches of their conversation. One said, "He doesn't look like he can afford anything here," the other replied. "Maybe he's just lost." The words stung, but Keanu stayed calm. He understood this was not about money. It was about how people see others before knowing them. It was about the walls built by pride and ignorance. Still, Keanu did not leave. He kept looking at the black car, imagining what it would be like to drive it on open roads. He thought about how different the world was for people like those salesmen, who only cared about money and status, and he thought about the kind of world he wanted to live in, a world where kindness mattered more than clothes or cars, a world where people didn't judge others by their appearance, but by their heart. As he waited, Keanu's mind was calm but strong. He wasn't angry or upset. He was quietly disappointed. He knew this moment was more than just a visit to a dealership. It was a lesson for everyone there, whether they realized it or not. Finally, after what felt like hours but was only minutes, Keanu stepped back from the car. The salesman watched him closely, still skeptical. Then Keanu said softly, "Thank you for your time." He didn't sound bitter or sad, just polite, and then he turned toward the exit, ready to leave. But something was about to happen that would change the whole room. Because while the salesman had judged him, someone else had been watching quietly. Someone who knew exactly who Keanu was, and soon, the whole dealership would realize that this simple man was much more than what they thought. Keanu's calm in the face of insult showed a strength few could match. He didn't fight back with words or anger. He showed that true class is about dignity, patience, and kindness even when treated unfairly. And that is what made this story unforgettable. The door to the back office opened quietly, and a man stepped out, older than the salesman, with gray hair and a sharp suit. He was the manager of the dealership, someone who had worked there for many years. At first, he did not notice the scene. By the sports cars, he walked toward the sales counter to check on things. But then, out of the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of Keanu's face. The manager paused for a second, looking carefully. He squinted and then his eyes went wide. He suddenly realized who was standing in the showroom. He had seen Keanu Reeves in movies, on posters, and even in the news. He had never expected to see a big star in his dealership. He hurried forward, brushing past the two salesmen who were still laughing quietly. "Excuse me, sir," the manager called out, his voice respectful. He reached Keanu and smiled warmly. "I'm very sorry for the wait, Mr. Reeves," he said. His words made the two young salesmen freeze in place. They looked at Keanu again, this time with shock and fear. The name Keanu Reeves echoed in their minds. They understood in a moment that they had made a huge mistake. The manager quickly turned to his staff and spoke in a low, serious tone. He did not shout, but the message was clear. He was disappointed. "This is not how we treat any customer, especially not a guest like Mr. Reeves," he said. The salesmen lowered their eyes. Embarrassed, they wished they could disappear. Their jokes and rude words from before now felt like heavy stones. They realized they had insulted a world-famous actor, someone loved by millions for his kindness and humility. Keanu stood calmly as the manager tried to make things right. "Please, let me help you personally," the manager offered. He gestured toward his office and promised to show Keanu every car in the dealership. He said, "Anything you want to see, any questions you have, I am here for you." But Keanu only smiled softly and shook his head. There was no anger or pride in his eyes, just a quiet sadness. He said, "No need. I've already seen what I needed to see." His words were simple, but they carried a lot of meaning. The room felt heavy and silent. The manager looked worried, hoping Keanu would change his mind. He tried again to offer help, but Keanu was gentle and firm. He thanked the manager for his kindness, but it was clear he did not want to stay any longer. The two salesmen could not believe what had just happened. They had laughed at Keanu, spoken badly about him, and tried to push him away. Now they stood just a few feet from him, seeing not just a movie star, but a man who treated them with more respect than they had shown him. They watched as Keanu prepared to leave. He picked up his old jacket and nodded politely to the manager, but before Keanu could leave, something special happened. He paused, turned back to face the room. Everyone was watching him, the manager, the staff, and a few customers. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Keanu looked at the staff with calm eyes. He was not angry. He was not trying to make them feel small. He just wanted them to understand. In a gentle but strong voice, he said something simple but powerful. His words were not loud, but they touched everyone who heard them. Even the manager listened carefully. Knowing this was an important moment, Keanu's presence in that fancy dealership was now more than just about buying a car. It was about teaching a lesson, not with anger or revenge, but with kindness and honesty. He stood there, looking around at the shiny cars and the people who worked so hard to sell them. And he knew that sometimes the most important lessons come from the quietest people, people who do not shout, but still leave a mark on your heart. The salesman felt ashamed. They wanted to take back their rude words, but they couldn't. All they could do was listen and hope to be better in the future. Keanu's visit to the dealership became something the staff would never forget. Not because of who he was, but because of how he handled their mistakes. He chose dignity over anger, patience over pride, and in doing so, he showed everyone there what true class looks like. The moment was simple, but it felt huge, a quiet reminder that you never know who is standing in front of you, and that every person deserves respect, no matter how they look or what they wear. Keanu finally walked toward the door. The manager watched him go, wishing things had gone differently. The salesmen stood in silence, their faces red with regret. And everyone in the dealership felt the weight of what had just happened. It was a lesson none of them would forget, because sometimes it takes just one kind person to change the way you see the world. Keanu Reeves stood by the door, ready to leave the dealership. He could feel all eyes on him. The manager looked worried, and the two salesmen stared at the floor. Even the other customers had stopped talking. The whole room was quiet, As if everyone was waiting for what would happen next, Keanu paused. He turned around and looked at the staff. His face was calm and gentle, not angry or upset. He looked straight at the two salesmen who had laughed at him. They could not look him in the eye. They shuffled their feet and wished they could disappear. Keanu took a deep breath and spoke, his voice soft but clear. "You never know who is standing in front of you. So treat everyone with respect," he said. His words hung in the air like a quiet bell. He did not shout or use angry words. He did not try to make anyone feel small. But his message was strong, and everyone understood it. He looked at the manager and the staff. He said, "No suit, no fame, and no money should be the reason someone gets treated better." The people in the room listened carefully. Some nodded, some felt ashamed. The salesman finally looked up at him. They saw he was not trying to punish them. He was just asking for something simple: kindness. Keanu did not want revenge. He wanted people to remember what it means to be human. The manager thanked Keanu for his words. He apologized again, his voice full of regret. But Keanu shook his head gently. He said, "I'm not angry. I just want you to know that how you treat people matters." His words were soft, but they had power. He was a man who had seen pain, loss, and struggle. He understood how a small act of kindness or a small act of rudeness could change someone's day. He knew that money and fame did not make a person better. It was how you acted when no one was watching. That was what showed your true character. As Keanu turned to leave, he stopped again. He looked back at the two salesmen and said with a little smile, "Oh, and I'll be buying 3 of these, just not from here." His voice was light, but everyone in the dealership felt the weight of his words. The manager looked shocked. The salesmen's faces turned even redder. They realized that their actions had cost them not just a sale, but something much more important: respect. Keanu's comeback was pure class. He could have been angry. He could have tried to get them fired. Instead, he showed them how to be better people. The room stayed silent as Keanu walked out the door. Even after he left, no one spoke for a long time. The manager looked at the salesman and shook his head. He knew they would remember this lesson for the rest of their lives outside. Keanu walked to the street. He did not look back. He just kept moving forward. His heart was peaceful. He had not let the rudeness of others change who he was. Inside the dealership, everyone slowly returned to work, but nothing felt the same. The customers whispered to each other. Some of them left, not wanting to buy from a place where people were treated poorly. The two salesmen sat quietly at their desks. They remembered every word Keanu had said. They realized that being kind costs nothing, but being rude can cost you everything. The story of what happened that day did not stay inside the dealership. A customer who had seen everything told her friends. She wrote about it online. Soon, the story was spreading across the city. People talked about how Keanu had stayed calm, how he had taught a lesson without raising his voice, how he had chosen kindness over anger. It was a story people wanted to share because it reminded everyone of something important. Treat people with respect, no matter what they look like. Keanu did not need a fancy suit or a famous face to show his true character. All he needed were a few simple words and a calm heart. The lesson he left behind was stronger than any angry outburst. He showed that being kind is always the right choice, and that sometimes the best comebacks are not loud, they are gentle. But they are remembered forever. That day, the dealership learned a lesson it would never forget, and Keanu walked away, still the humble, kind person he had always been. His simple, honest words echoed in the hearts of everyone who heard them. A small moment in a car dealership had become a story of true class, and it was all because Keanu chose respect when he could have chosen anger. The moment Keanu Reeves walked out of the dealership, everything inside felt changed. The staff stood silent for a long time, thinking about what had just happened. No one spoke, and even the phones ringing in the background sounded quieter than before. Outside, Keanu put on his old jacket and blended into the busy city like any other person. But inside the dealership, people kept talking about him. The manager felt sorry for how his staff had acted. The salesman felt embarrassed, wishing they could turn back time and do things differently. The day went on, but no one could forget what happened. One of the customers in the dealership, a woman with short brown hair, had seen and heard everything. She was amazed by Keanu's calm and kind way of handling the situation. As soon as she left, she opened her phone and wrote a long post on social media. She described the whole story, from the moment Keanu walked in. She wrote about how the salesman judged him by his looks and not his character. She wrote about how Keanu's words had silenced the room and how he walked out with pure class. She ended her post with, "This is why Keanu Reeves is loved by everyone. He teaches us to be kind, even when people are not kind to us." Her story spread quickly. Within hours, thousands of people had read her post. Fans from all over the world started sharing it and adding their own comments. Some shared other stories of meeting Keanu, about how he gave up his seat on the subway, or how he gave away money to charity. Many people wrote that they were not surprised by his behavior. They said Keanu was a rare kind of celebrity. He did not act better than anyone else. He lived a simple life and treated everyone like an equal. Soon, news websites and entertainment blogs picked up the story. They added pictures of Keanu in his simple clothes, walking past the shiny cars. Headlines appeared everywhere, saying things like, "Keanu Reeves, the humble hero who reminds us to be kind," and "Keanu's classy response to rude car salesmen goes viral." People in other cities started talking about it. On radio stations, DJs discussed the story and invited listeners to call in and share their own stories about celebrities. Many people said they hoped more famous people would act like Keanu. They wished everyone would treat others with respect, no matter how much money or fame they had. Back at the dealership, things were not going well for the staff. The dealership's website and social media pages started to fill with angry comments. People wrote bad reviews, saying they would never buy a car from a place that treated people so badly. Some reviews even called out the salesman by name. The manager tried to do damage control, but the story was spreading too fast. He called a meeting with all the staff and told them, "We have to remember, every person who walks in here deserves respect, no matter who they are." He looked at the two salesmen and said, "This was a lesson for us. Never judge a customer by their clothes or by what you think they can buy." The two salesmen felt ashamed. They thought about their actions again and again. They knew they had treated Keanu badly, but now everyone knew about it. They wished they could apologize to Keanu in person, but deep down, they understood that sometimes saying sorry is not enough. You have to show you have changed. You have to treat everyone better in the future. In other dealerships across the city, people heard about what happened. Some employees wrote their own posts. They said Keanu had visited their shops before. One wrote, "He was so polite. He waited in line and thanked every person who helped him." Another wrote, "He bought a car from us once and even gave a big tip to the cleaning staff." These stories made people love Keanu even more. They saw that his kindness was not just for the cameras, it was real and honest. The story kept growing. Soon, even celebrities shared it on their pages. Some wrote messages about respect and kindness. Others wrote, "This is why Keanu is one of the good ones." The simple moment in a car dealership became a lesson for millions of people around the world. Keanu did not speak about the story. He did not make a public statement or post about it on his own pages. He just kept living his life. To him, what happened at the dealership was not special. It was just the right thing to do. But for everyone else, his calm and gentle response became an example. It reminded people that kindness does not need to be loud. Sometimes the most powerful lesson is shown in silence and dignity. As the days passed, more people visited the dealership. Some came just to see the place where Keanu Reeves had taught a lesson in class. A few even asked to buy the same black sports car he had liked. But many just wanted to see if the staff had learned to be kinder. The manager made sure to greet every visitor with a smile. The two salesmen changed the way they treated customers. They were more polite and careful. The lesson had reached their hearts, all across the city and even far away. People talked about what happened. It was not just about a movie star or a fancy car. It was about remembering that we should all treat each other with respect, no matter what someone looks like or what they wear. Keanu Reeves reminded the world that day that real class is not about money or fame. It is about the way we act when no one is watching. That is why his story became so popular and touched so many people. Because in the end, everyone wants to be treated with kindness, just like Keanu treated everyone else. A few days after the dealership incident, Keanu Reeves was seen again in the same city. He hadn't changed anything about his simple style. He still wore the same old jacket, jeans, and comfortable boots. But this time, he decided to visit a smaller car dealership on the other side of town. This place was not fancy. It was family-run, with a small lot and fewer cars. The sign outside was a little faded, and the floor inside was not shiny like the big dealership. But Keanu didn't care about looks. He cared about how people treated each other when he walked through the glass door. A young woman at the front desk smiled at him. She didn't know who he was. She greeted him with a friendly, "Hello, how are you today?" Her voice was warm and honest. Keanu smiled back and said, "I'm just here to look around, thank you." There was no pressure, no judgment in her eyes. She simply offered him a glass of water and told him to take his time. He could tell she treated every person who walked in the same way. Keanu slowly walked around the lot. He looked at the cars, some old and some new. He was surprised to see that the same kind of black sports car he liked before was parked in the corner. It wasn't a brand new model, but it was clean and well cared for. A salesman came over, a man in his 40s with a gentle face. He introduced himself as Daniel and shook Keanu's hand. Daniel didn't look at Keanu's clothes or try to guess how much money he had. He just said, "If you have any questions, I'm here to help." Keanu asked Daniel about the black sports car. Daniel's eyes lit up. He loved talking about cars. And he explained every detail, the engine, the history, the way it handled on the road. Keanu listened carefully, asking a few simple questions. He was impressed, not just by the car, but by how kind and honest Daniel was. He didn't try to sell the most expensive car. He just wanted Keanu to find something he liked, Daniel said. "It's important to me that every customer is happy, even if they just come in to look." Other workers at the dealership also treated Keanu with respect. A young man washing cars waved hello. A woman in the office brought out fresh coffee for all the customers. Everyone acted as if they were welcoming a neighbor. There was no sign that anyone recognized Keanu as a movie star. But even if they did, Keanu could see it would not have changed the way they treated him. Keanu spent almost an hour at the small dealership. He looked at a few more cars and talked with Daniel about life, not just about vehicles. Daniel shared a story about his own struggles and how he had once lost his job, but never lost hope. Keanu listened with real interest. He understood what it felt like to be judged or ignored. The two men talked about how kindness could make the world a better place. Before he left, Keanu thanked Daniel and the staff. He told them, "You have all treated me better than anywhere else I've ever been." He meant it. And Daniel smiled. "We just try to be good people, sir." "That's all," he said. Keanu said he would think about the cars and let them know. But everyone was happy just to have helped him, even if he didn't buy anything. Later that day, Keanu called the dealership from his home. He spoke to the young woman at the front desk. He told her he wanted to buy the black sports car, and not just for himself. He also wanted to buy 2 more cars for charity auctions. The woman was surprised and excited. She thanked him again and again. Keanu also asked her if there was anything special he could do for the staff. She said everyone was just happy to help. Keanu said he would come in the next day to finish the paperwork. That evening, the staff at the small dealership celebrated together. They didn't know Keanu Reeves was a famous actor until someone finally looked him up online. They were shocked, but also very proud. They realized that the humble man who walked into their shop was a true movie star. But more than that, he was a good person. They talked about how easy it would have been for him to act proud or ask for special treatment. But he never did. He treated everyone with kindness, and because they did the same, something special happened. When Keanu came back the next day, he brought coffee and donuts for the whole staff. He thanked everyone again and shook hands with each person. He quietly paid for the cars and left a large tip for the workers. He also asked if the dealership had any kind of employee support fund. The manager said they had a small one to help staff in emergencies. Keanu said, "I'd like to make a donation, but please keep it private." He filled out the paperwork and made a transfer of $50,000 under a different name. No one knew until the bank called the manager to confirm the money had arrived. The staff were amazed and grateful. Keanu told them, "I just wanted to thank you for being good people." He didn't want them to use his name for marketing or news. He just wanted to give back for the kindness he received. The staff promised to keep his gift a secret. They respected his wish for privacy and used the money to help workers who needed it. For days after, the whole team felt proud and happy. They had not only sold cars but also gained a story that would inspire them forever. They saw that kindness really could change someone's day, and sometimes even change a life. Keanu's visit was not about fame, money, or being treated like a star. It was about simple respect and real human connection. Everyone at the little dealership would remember his visit. They would remember how a quiet, humble man walked in and left them with a lesson that meant more than any car ever could. Keanu Reeves was not the kind of man who liked attention. He did not tell the world about the good things he did, but sometimes the quiet actions of a kind person speak much louder than words. After he bought the cars from the small family-run dealership, Keanu did something that surprised everyone. He did not ask for cameras or reporters. He did not tell anyone about his plans. He just wanted to do something good. Without anyone noticing, the next morning, Keanu went to the small dealership. Carrying a box of fresh donuts and 2 large cups of coffee, he gave the box to the young woman at the front desk who smiled and thanked him. Then he shook hands with every worker, looking them in the eyes and saying, "Thank you for treating me so well." He met Daniel, the salesman, and the two shared another friendly conversation. No one acted nervous, and no one treated him like a famous movie star. They just saw him as a nice man who respected them. And that made Keanu feel at home. As the paperwork for the cars was being finished, Keanu quietly asked the manager about the employee fund. He learned that sometimes the staff had emergencies and needed help. The manager told him, "We do what we can, but it's hard for a small business." Keanu nodded and said, "I'd like to help," but he did not want the staff to know where the help came from. He asked the manager to keep it a secret. Keanu believed that true kindness is done quietly. He filled out the paperwork and made a donation under a different name. The manager was shocked when he saw the amount, $50,000. Keanu smiled and said, "Please use this for anyone who needs it." The manager promised to respect his wish, and Keanu finished buying the 3 cars. 2 of the cars were sent to special charity auctions. Keanu told the staff, "I want these cars to help people who are struggling." He did not want his name on the auction flyers or in the newspapers. He just wanted to make a difference. The 3rd car, the black sports car, he kept for himself, not as a trophy, but as a memory of kindness to him. The car was not just a machine. It was a symbol of how small acts of respect could lead to something much greater. A few days later, the dealership owner got a call from the bank. The bank manager asked if they knew a person with the name on the donation. The owner said yes, but he had no idea it was really Keanu. When he learned the truth, he was amazed. He told his staff about the gift, but they promised to keep it private. They knew Keanu would not want anyone to make a big deal out of it. So the story stayed a quiet secret among the people who worked there. But the feeling of gratitude and happiness spread through the whole team. The money in the employee fund helped workers when they needed it most. One worker's child needed surgery, and the fund helped pay the bills. Another worker's car broke down, and the fund helped them get back on the road. The staff saw that one man's kindness had made their lives better in real ways. They worked harder, treated customers with even more respect. They wanted to pass on the good feeling. They saw that being kind was not just about big gestures. It was about small things too. A smile, a thank you, a helping hand. News of Keanu's visit spread quietly. Some customers noticed the new cars and asked about them. The staff would just smile and say, "A kind customer bought them for a good cause." They did not say more, but everyone could feel that something special had happened. A few weeks later, the charity auctions took place. The 2 cars Keanu donated were sold for a high price. All the money went to help local children's hospitals and food programs. Families who needed help got support, and none of them ever knew who had started the chain of kindness. Keanu's actions inspired the people at the dealership to be kinder. In their own lives, they helped each other more. They stopped judging people by their clothes or by how much money they might have. When someone new came to the dealership, they were treated like a guest. Every staff member remembered how good it felt to be respected. The lesson Keanu taught them was more valuable than any car or any sale. One night, after work, Daniel sat with his family and told them about the quiet, kind man who had changed their lives. He did not use Keanu's name, he just said, "There are still good people in this world. People who help others without needing thanks." His children smiled and said they wanted to be like that too. Daniel realized that the best gifts are the ones you give without expecting anything in return. He knew he would never forget the lesson, and he hoped to pass it on to everyone he met. Keanu never spoke about what he did. He did not look for praise or awards. He just kept living his life, working hard, and helping people whenever he could. He believed that being kind was the best way to make the world a better place, and because of his quiet actions, the world did become a little better for the people at the small dealership, and for many others too. Keanu Reeves' story at the car dealership became something much bigger than just a visit to buy a car. For many people, it was a lesson, a story about kindness, respect, and how small moments can mean everything, even though Keanu himself never talked about what happened. The people he touched remembered it forever. For Keanu, it was never about being a hero. It was about doing the right thing, even when nobody was watching. After the day at the family-run dealership, life went on for Keanu. He kept living in his simple apartment, riding his motorcycle, and working on his movies. Sometimes fans saw him reading a book in the park or waiting in line at a coffee shop. He always smiled and treated everyone like an equal. He never acted like he was more important just because he was famous. He always tried to do small, good things holding doors, helping someone carry a heavy bag. Those who met him said that he listened carefully and made them feel important. He believed that every person deserved respect and kindness, no matter who they were. But back at the small dealership, his quiet lesson changed many lives. The staff who met Keanu would tell the story to their families, not to brag about meeting a movie star, but to explain how a stranger's gentle words and actions made their hearts feel full. Daniel, the kind salesman, said to his children, "We all have the power to help someone feel seen and valued, even if it's just for a few minutes." His daughter nodded and said, "I want to be kind like that too, Daddy." Daniel smiled, feeling proud and grateful. The money Keanu gave for the staff's emergency fund helped in ways no one could have imagined. One winter, a worker's house had a fire. The fund helped the family find a safe place to live and buy new clothes. Another time, a worker's wife became sick and needed medicine. The fund was there, quietly saving the day. Every time someone was helped, the staff would remember the kind man who gave without asking for thanks. The whole team became closer. Like a family, they looked out for each other and always tried to help. Whenever there was a problem, they solved it together. The spirit of kindness grew stronger every day in the city. The story of Keanu's class and generosity kept spreading. Other businesses heard about it and wanted to do better too. Some owners told their staff, "Treat everyone who comes through our door with respect." Just like that movie star said, a few people even started kindness days on these days. Shops gave free coffee or flowers to strangers. People wrote thank you notes to workers and tried to make someone's day a little brighter. Keanu's small act had started a quiet wave of goodness. No one could measure it, but everyone could feel it. One day, an old woman came into the family-run dealership. She wore simple clothes and looked tired. Some new workers were not sure how to help, but Daniel remembered Keanu's words. He greeted her with a big smile and offered her tea. He listened as she talked about her life in the end. She did not buy a car, but she left with a happy heart, saying, "Thank you for treating me so kindly, young man. I will tell my family about you." Daniel knew that was worth more than any sale over time. The staff learned that real success was not just about selling the most cars. It was about building trust and making people feel respected. They saw how happy customers returned, sometimes just to say hello. The little dealership became famous for being friendly and fair. Some customers came from far away saying, "We heard you treat everyone like family here." And it was true. Every person deserved respect and kindness, no matter who they were. But back at the small dealership, his quiet lesson changed many lives. The staff who met Keanu would tell the story to their families, not to brag about meeting a movie star, but to explain how a stranger's gentle words and actions made their hearts feel full. Daniel, the kind salesman, said to his children, "We all have the power to help someone feel seen and valued, even if it's just for a few minutes." His daughter nodded and said, "I want to be kind like that too, Daddy." Daniel smiled, feeling proud and grateful. The money Keanu gave for the staff's emergency fund helped in ways no one could have imagined. One winter, a worker's house had a fire. The fund helped the family find a safe place to live and buy new clothes. Another time, a worker's wife became sick and needed medicine. The fund was there, quietly saving the day. Every time someone was helped, the staff would remember the kind man who gave without asking for thanks. The whole team became closer, like a family. They looked out for each other and always tried to help. Whenever there was a problem, they solved it together. The spirit of kindness grew stronger every day in the city. The story of Keanu's class and generosity kept spreading. Other businesses heard about it and wanted to do better too. Some owners told their staff, "Treat everyone who comes through our door with respect." Just like that movie star said, a few people even started kindness days on these days. Shops gave free coffee or flowers to strangers. People wrote thank you notes to workers and tried to make someone's day a little brighter. Keanu's small act had started a quiet wave of goodness. No one could measure it, but everyone could feel it. One day, an old woman came into the family-run dealership. She wore simple clothes and looked tired. Some new workers were not sure how to help, but Daniel remembered Keanu's words. He greeted her with a big smile and offered her tea. He listened as she talked about her life in the end. She did not buy a car, but she left with a happy heart, saying, "Thank you for treating me so kindly, young man. I will tell my family about you." Daniel knew that was worth more than any sale. Over time, the staff learned that real success was not just about selling the most cars. It was about building trust and making people feel respected. They saw how happy customers returned, sometimes just to say hello. The little dealership became famous for being friendly and fair. Some customers came from far away, saying, "We heard you treat everyone like family here." And it was true. Every person was welcome, no matter what they wore or what they could buy. The lesson from Keanu's visit stayed with everyone. Even when things got busy or stressful, the staff tried to remember that a smile and a kind word could change someone's day. Daniel would sometimes look at the empty chair where Keanu had once sat. He remembered their conversation about life, struggle, and hope. He was grateful for the reminder that goodness can come from anyone, famous or not. As for Keanu, he continued living as he always had. He gave to charities in secret. He helped his friends and sometimes even strangers on the street. He never wanted anyone to make a big deal about it. He just wanted the world to be a kinder place. Some people said he was too quiet for Hollywood, but those who knew his story understood that he was a quiet force for good. His kindness inspired others one person at a time. In the end, Keanu Reeves' story at the dealership became more than a tale about a celebrity. It was a story for everyone, a reminder that our actions matter, that we all have the power to choose kindness. It does not cost anything to be respectful, but it can mean everything to the person you meet. When people tell this story, they don't just talk about cars or fame. They talk about a man who turned an ordinary moment into something unforgettable. And they remember how being gentle, patient, and kind can leave a mark that lasts far beyond one day. Because of Keanu's actions, many hearts were changed for the better, and the world became just a little bit brighter, one small act of kindness at a time.